I want to say good evening to all of you who are here at the Kyiv International Economic Forum, and I would like to greet all of you with the Global Day of Economists, and for all of us here to pay our respects to those who are currently in the armed forces of Ukraine. Last year, during the Kyiv International Economic Forum, those of you who were here at the forum last year, please raise your hand. Do you remember that day, just a couple of minutes before the start of the forum, there were missiles flying towards Kyiv, but we were overjoyed by the fact that Intercontinental Hotel has a great shelter. We were overjoyed because there were people who came back to Ukraine and we didn't have time to remember the people who did not come back. But this Kyiv International Economic Forum is quite different because if a year ago we discussed whether it was possible to recover the economy, whether it was possible to continue living under these conditions when they did not occupy Kyiv in 3 days and we did not win the war in 3 days. This forum is about a reaction to contemporary challenges, the challenges that we are paying extremely high price for. And I know there are people present here who know people who have died at war, but the entire nation is paying extremely high price. And if you give us any type of change, then let us just have a few hours of peace or the opportunity to enjoy this fall, at least for a couple of days. We're not choosing the price we pay, and I believe that all of us here have accepted the fact that we are paying this price. Usik, when he was at the stage, he said, the people are doing their best, so please don't judge people harshly. You know, I'm so focused on the service members for the past year and a half that I continue to judge people. I judge civilians. Someone can say, wow, you're so rude. Yeah, but I am rude. I continue to judge a barista who does not open his cafe on time, to the bank employee who does not know what type of loan a friend of mine has. I am judgmental to an insurance company employee who does not know how to file for the healthcare payments. And it's not, the war is not a justification because the service members at the front line do not have days off. And so I look at them and I look at the entrepreneurs. At the final panel, people, business, and economy, will have four people. And these are the people who are defining our present. And I could say that I'm not judgmental to them, but you might. You might ask them questions. You might put them under scrutiny. But I want to give the example of a couple of service members. Why I'm never judgmental to them and I never put them under scrutiny. I filmed a show about Danilo, and his call sign is the Frenchman. He was the one who was under the rubble of Retroville when there was a strike targeting the Retroville mall. And he said that when I woke up, I realized that my life is over. In half an hour, he heard the voice of his friend and he realized that he will survive. I know the story of a service member, Andrey with a call sign Buy, who was told that there you have 15% survival chance because half of his skull was blown off, but he continued to lead the combat. When I learned about the story, it was 3 months after he was undergoing rehabilitation, and I asked him, how are you alive? And he said, well, but who else would lead the battle? You had half a skull left. Yeah, but what was I left to do? So the people who are at war right now, and the entity of the military spirits, Ripaznak, he's here in row 4. They are the embodiment of the spirit and the character. And the character that Alexander Usik mentioned today. But Alexander Usik said something about the battle and the house and the home. Some people have lost their homes, but they continue to fight their battles. And this is particularly related to entrepreneurs. All of us have to be 100% in tune, 100% sane, adequate, smart, focused. And we also have to remain people, humans, and humane. We have to try hard to keep living. even without arms, without legs, having no time, being exhausted out of our minds. Some people might want to say, I want to quit. But those of you should have been present at the mental health panel. Entrepreneurs are about something else, especially the ones I will invite to the stage today. Andrey Stavnitser, the person who has given the coordinates of his newly built home to Ukrainian armed forces because the Russians are occupying his house. And he is also the co-founder of the Superhumans Centre, the co-owner and CEO of Ukraine's largest port, TIS. Oleg Gorokhovskyi, the co-founder of Monobank, the person who works on a daily basis to create new things for the Monobank symbol, the cat, to create some sort of gifts for the donations to make sure that Ukrainians keep donating money to the volunteers. And this person continues to tirelessly work for our victory. And next, I would like to invite to the stage Vyacheslav Klymov. And I would like to thank him for the Nova Poshta humanitarian project. Last year on this stage, I have said that I live on Nova Poshta. I come there 3 times a day sometimes. Thankfully, this year, my presence there has decreased, but fortunately, the points accumulated from Nova Poshta Humanitarian are not decreasing. I'm grateful that we're able to send shoes and clothes and provisions to the front lines through Nova Poshta. I would like to also invite to the stage Igor Nikonov. This is the person who has set the threshold, the standard, the high standard for the building industry. Igor Nikonov, in particular, his development company Khan, has become a part of YeoSela program. And I believe none of you have any questions asking why these people are on the stage today, because these people, over the course of this year and a half, have become more than entrepreneurs. They have no other way to do things. They're spending their own money, they're investing their own time and efforts. And just like Vasil Khmelnytsky, a lot of them are a lot less of millionaires, and a lot of them have lost money over the course of a year and a half. But my question remains the same to all of them. How have this year and a half changed you? We're not talking about February 24th. We're not talking about our fears and what we did. We're talking about what type of people are you today?
Well, good. Surely this year and a half has changed us. We're not what we were in the past. And, there's positive aspects about that, because surely, what's most important to me, we understand that which country we live. And I've never thought about that, but when you see like millions of people, coming out of Ukraine, and then they say that they want to return into Ukraine, and I understood that there's no better country than Ukraine, and surely we have to do everything possible for that country to exist, much better than it was before. And I was saying that this is the major task for us, and we surely are doing everything possible to do that, to make it happen. Okay, so what's making our country better than the others, except for the fact that it's our house, and it's something that is very convenient for us even during the martial era period? Well, house, it's not the kind of material category. I would say it's more of a spiritual one, but it's all about the society that's around us. This is the society that we won't be able to find in any other country of the world. Then girls, the women, the most wonderful. And believe me, when you're just walking around London or Paris, believe me, it's not the same mode as when we are talking, when you're going Vinnytsia or in other places. But the people are different. The people are kind of light. And I can see, based on the projects I have, based on the people we work with, the people have changed drastically. And the relations between people has changed. They become more attentive to one another. They became kind of more friendly. So I believe that this is the best country, and we're doing everything possible to make everything fine. Well, surely, we could say that it's more for Igor when they learn about tenders. I can't say anything about public officials. As Fedorov said, that we need to, remove them from the equation, that they're light. But when I read that people are, spending like $1.5 million for repairs or something, but when I see a military, I see a woman from the village of Sosnitsa who have received 3.5 million hryvnia. She received after the death of her son, and she's spending 3.5 million reconstructing a road in the village. So she's a citizen. Oh well, this Valentina Hryshchenko, I'm fascinated with her story. Andrey, I think it's far more difficult for you to focus your attention considering the fact that the ports, it's kind of a big target for the enemy. I'm still learning Ukrainian, so I'll have to speak Russian. There's 4 reasons. Because we have Monobank, Nova Poshta, UDP, Dobrobot, and many others. And you start to cherish that only when you've compared it with something. The question about how we've changed, I think it's important to say that the relations toward the budgetary funds has changed. We're treating them as if their own, as if it's our own. The people were allowed, we're happy about public funds being spent on anything. Now the people are saying like, hey, you want to use the money for repairing, I don't know, a charge or something else? Well, that's not the right issue. As for the ports, indeed, the ports have stopped on the second day of the full-scale aggression, and that's something very painful for me. But you can't do anything about it. It's live. Everything will continue. Will restart its operations. I have no doubts in that. The largest challenge is the people, because we need to take care of the people. Those people who worked in TIS, they're kind of leaving, and it will be hard for us to gather those people. But we are now absolutely engaged in Superhumans, so that's something that replaces the ports. It brings great satisfaction. It gives you sense of purpose. And whenever I talk to our patients, I don't need any money. I'm spending months to work on their motivation, because you can see that a person has lost 1 or 2 limbs. We have people who lost 3 limbs, but the people have this motivation. They want to develop, they want to work. I have one example about our patients. We have 2 identical patients with similar motivation. So we can't rescue one, but for a period of, I don't know, for a long period of time, and the other one recovered in 3 weeks. And the person who recovered in 3 weeks, he promised his wife that he will carry his baby on his hands in 3 weeks. He promised that. So when you talk, you understand that, you have any problems, you have sicknesses or issues, well, it's nothing. Because there's people with greatest motivation. So if you would compare what I'm doing now and with my previous business, I've never had a motivation like that. I've never had a motivation like what I'm having in my own this project. Well, talking about the Superhumans, this is a wonderful project, and you're saying that you're not expecting assistance from the state. You're trying to do something extremely powerful, and later on it might become a kind of a state center, because now our military, they're not receiving rehabilitation, and the soldier will say that if I will go to Mykolaiv, what I'm going to do that, there's no rehabilitation. But the question to you, so you get you're driven by the military, you've invested in port development, you've invested billions, so that's a family cause, and would you be looking at Klymov and think, well, Nova Poshta by Klymov is now costs billion and Ireland lost a billion. Well, the money is not the most important. The most important when you feel that you're doing the right cause. I'm kind of turning my brain into the business right now. Like I understand that. Yeah, I understand. Well, uh, Klymov is doing the right job. I mean, but still, I understand that not a single big building, not a single warehouse or factory will work without human. Nobody will be able to recover and build this country unless there will be a sound and effective people. That's our function. We want those people to return so that they would know that they're fighting for us, and we are in debt in relation to those people. We have to make sure that they would be recovering and they will rebuild the country. I'm not sure if you were aware of that, but Stalin, after the war, he didn't want people on skates at the citizens with a million of people. Well, skates, these were the people who lost both legs. So Stalin, he took all of those people to the monastery far away in the north, and those people have died because he wanted to make sure that people wouldn't be, you know, watching at them, so that the country didn't know the price they've paid for the victory. But we want them to be applied so that whenever they would be coming to the bank, to the restaurant, the people would come up and say thank you for your service, so that we would be proud of our heroes. So that's a short description of a big mission we have for Superhumans. Well, that's the painful part of this story. And there was a book, and the author describes how the people were taking from Kyiv and the Yevbus. That's where the railroad. The KGB officers, they decided to collect all of those people, and they were thrown as things into the railroad car. So we have to do everything possible to have a perfect rehabilitation. So the whole state would be full of, superhumans, so that whenever we are coming past this person, we should always say thank you, because in this case they would respond with a smile, just like when they're coming to Nova Poshta and people are greeting them with a smile. So Vyacheslav, a question to you. A year ago at the Kyiv International Economic Forum, you said that the main thing for you is that the owner of the team has to be with his team, that you were driving around the post offices, you were talking to people, you're spending all of your time with these people. You proved your presence. Is there any other values that you want your team to inherit? Well, good afternoon, everyone. Well, I'm not sure that a lot has changed. And we are with our teams right now. Well, apart from Andrew, and our business didn't stop for a single moment, and it's still operational. So every one of you, I guess, has a lot of issues. Surely a lot of things which are absolutely important for our armed forces and our soldiers. This is something that is transported to our soldiers thanks to Nova Poshta. Now the budget for the support of the armed forces, that's around 100 million per month. So we have to work simply to make sure that there will be such a support, such an assistance. So that's the first thing. Then our relationship with the team over this year that has passed since our previous meeting, it has become even better, even warmer, and even closer. The team has become stronger, And by the way, talking about the team, talking about the Nova Posta, we shouldn't forget about the 3,249 employees of the Nova Posta that are currently fighting on the front line. Unfortunately, and this is a big tragedy for us as a team, unfortunately, 99 of my colleagues have died. That is why Nova Posta is working as a properly tuned, like Switzerland mechanism, like a Swiss watch. As for my own changes, I'd say that I didn't change that much, but I became far more focused, and it's easier for me to say no. And I'm trying to be less, politically sensitive, politically careful. I can feel that someone is trying to eat my time, and I would rather spend this time for my own company or for bringing us closer to the victory. So it's mostly about my personal changes. Well, thank you. Vyacheslav, now Oleg Gorokhovskyi. A question to you: the changes in the banks, in graphics, you keep changing something, keep inventing something. So the first question: are these your personal needs, or and then this cat, or we shouldn't associate Gorokhovsky with the kitten, or so cat is one thing, Gorokhovsky is the other thing. So greetings, very happy to see you. I would like to answer the question about the changes that we faced with the war, and then about the cat. I believe that there's this major change that all Ukrainians have underwent, and this is the change. Oh, by the way, I continue to study Ukrainian language, and when I asked my teacher, what is the difference between the goal and the purpose, she said, the purpose is something that is a bit bigger than the goal, and it's kind of convenient because in Russian there's no differentiation like that. There's long-term goals and there's short-term goals, but in Ukrainian we have that, and I believe there is one major challenge that has happened to all of the Ukrainians. On the 24th of February, we have our purpose changed. So, if you personally, if you are as the company, the purpose is not to make the victory closer, then something is wrong about you. Because, willing to have an expansion or willing to have a development of the company, that could only serve as the goal. Because if we'll won't be able to reach the purpose, if we'll not make the victory closer, if every business, every person won't do maximum possible to make the victory closer, not a single goal would be achieved. So that's the major shift, a change in the society, and a change for all of us. As for the kittens or the cats, well, the cat is how we see our cause. I've used to say that many times. Cat is all about the emotion. The emotions we try to, to spread, to share with our clients, and we want the cooperation with the bank to be emotional, to be memorizable, and we're trying to make sure that anytime you're using the bank, it's an experience that you shall be remembering how you've spent the time. And any service, it's how you save the time. That's why we're trying to create the proper kind of client experience. And okay, let's get to the business. So I'd like to ask you a question. You're continuing your work. You're already in Poland, and surely Monobank is not operating there as it is in Ukraine. You are called Stereo there. So what's the difference between Ukrainian and Polish market, and any challenges of your expansion there? And I guess in Vyacheslav you have already over 50 departments of Nova Poshta in Europe. So the war has made you move towards the European direction. So Oleg, what challenges do you have? And the same questions are there for Oleg. Well, we're not present in Poland. This is not the topical information. This is not the correct information. We have not solved all the issues with the regulator, and I can tell you that Ukraine, nobody's waiting for Ukrainians in Europe. We can see that based on the examples of what is happening to our agricultural products and based on what's happening to our project, because whenever there is something regulated, then they are very sensitive to their own market, and they believe that if something that is done in their favor, then they're doing that. If not, well, they're protecting that. Oh, and by the way, well, they can be understood. That's a good strategy for the country because the state has to protect their own producers. And there's nothing wrong about it. For example, I talked to one prominent person 2 days ago, and he said that whenever, well, even before the war, the large war, whenever there were tenders and producers from Turkey participated in these tenders, he said that Erdogan called 2 times and he was asking for his own company. So the state has to understand that their major task is to protect their own business and their own market. So I have, it's hard for me to come up with any achievements for Poland. Well, it believes that I don't know all the information about Monobank, but maybe I would like to address this question to Klymov. Was that a purpose or a goal for you to start a business in Poland? Based on the difference between the purpose and the goal? Well, yes. We've managed, to have more achievements than Monobank, at least in something. Surely it was a purpose, and that was something we had in the strategy. And this is something, we were still postponing because when you have a lot of job, you have a lot of work to do, and so we didn't have the time to think of the expansion. I remember back in April 2022, it was a difficult period, and we were sitting with my partner Volodymyr, and we started discussing the plans for the expansion. It was kind of a therapy for us because nobody is driving, there's bridge destroyed, and you start talking about the expansion towards Europe. That serves as a therapy of some sort. So we are having this expansion. We already have 8 countries. Then by the end of this year we'll have 6 more. Do we have challenges? Well, in fact, we have only the challenges. We have challenges every day, starting from the language issues. Which language should we use? For example, in Romania, which language should we speak in Latvia, which is going to be open very soon, and which is going to be open, but it's different from Poland. There's different challenges.
And of course, the issue of the language is pressing, and it was very difficult for us. But we have made the decision that in the Nova Poshta branches in Europe, people will be speaking 2 languages. The employees will be speaking the local language and Ukrainian. Even more so, I'm trying to be as diplomatic as possible when I say this. Uh, Reacting to the non diplomatic words of our Slovakian neighbor, we have responded by opening another branch in Bratislava. So that's something that we can do. That's a way to behave. Our expansion feels great. Of course, we're moving from issue to issue, but every day we're breaking records and everything keeps growing. I completely agree with Oleg in terms of the fact that Ukrainians are not expecting us, not because they don't like us. They adore Nova Poshta, they adore Monobank, but Ukrainians are very adaptable people, as it turned out. And when we opened our branch in Poland, it turned out that Ukrainians have already had 2 or 3 cards of different local banks. They have already gotten used to living without Nova Poshta, living without Rosetka, living without Dobrobut. And at the first glance, it's not great, but they have found a way around it. These are great news, of course, when you are loved not for the flag on your logo, not for the fact that you're wearing a vyshyvanka, but for the fact that the consumer understands that your product is the best on the market, but not because it is Ukrainian. This is the essence of our expansion. So you are so harshly evaluating the attitude towards business when it comes to the quality instead of the origin, right? Because for so many years, when we had this craft production growing or fashion growing, we would hear arguments, people saying buy Ukrainian because it is Ukrainian, but you are saying buy Ukrainian only when it's the best. Aren't you too demanding to Ukrainian businesses? No, I am not too demanding. I am 100% convinced that when we have made a decision in terms of values that we are fighting for to become a part of the open global world, every entrepreneur has made a decision to become a part of the open competition. This is how the world works. And once again, all of the businesses of the world are competing with each other. And each and every one of us is buying an iPhone not because there's an American flag on the box, and there's actually no flag on the box. And even more so, it says made in China or made in Taiwan on the box. But this is what open competition is about. And so, when we're talking about these uncomfortable, cruel winds of open competition, each and every one of us have to prepare. We have to be ready for that. Thank you. And so that's the things that I started from. When I judge people who are unprofessional, I am correct. Igor, question is to you. I believe that I hope that you will start by saying that you love Ukraine because of some services, like for example, our dry cleaning services are the best. And in England, the dry cleaning services are incomparable to Ukrainian. But let's talk about Khan Development Company, because a rare bird can fly to such a distance, can show such gross indicators after a year and a half of war, as the numbers that I have collected. Until the end of the year, you will have significant achievements in terms of the square meters from different development projects that you are building and that you are allowing people to buy. Where are these results coming from? How are you showing these results, these achievements of tens of thousands of square meters of newly built houses? We have completely destroyed cities like Mariupol and Bakhmut, and people are leaving, and they have to find other homes, and they have to buy homes. And is it about the fact that Khan shows significant quality and people choose to buy homes built by Khan? Well, there are many reasons for our growth. First and foremost, it is because for more than 250,000 square meters, we have brought into exploitation when it comes about residential buildings. We're not even talking about schools and other infrastructure facilities. But I want to be honest and say that not a very significant number of people from the east are buying our houses and apartments, because at the beginning of the war we have sold out most of the things we are planning to finish building by 2024, and these sales enabled us to relaunch in April 2022, and we realized that we have to fulfill our commitments, despite the fact that some of our colleagues were saying, "Hey, we are at war. How are you gonna build something? Because tomorrow a missile may strike, and that's it." In my understanding, we had to fulfill all of the commitments we have made, and it's also in a rule book. I'm gonna not shy away from saying that we have never postponed the finishing of our housing stock, the commissioning of our housing stock, because I don't want to steal time from the people. You can never give back the time you take away. If someone plans to move into a new apartment that will be built by April, they have to do that because they have plans. They're building their lives around it. And of course, the principle of our businesses are the following: if you want to be treated well, you have to treat people well. You have to put yourself in the shoes of the consumer, and this consumer has to motivate you. If these are the conditions that you accept for yourself, then you will strive for the highest quality, you will strive to meet all deadlines, and you will strive to create a friendly atmosphere. And this is something that we are working on, that's something that impacts our projects. And I look at how people communicate within our projects, and it might be a little unnatural in the way that it exists right now, but it is an atmosphere that we have curated, the atmosphere that inspires people. And we hear that from our from our managing companies, and we see that in the principles of our instant feedback. In a way, this is what enables us to work and grow. I don't understand. You're bringing this great positivity, but you're not the one who's planting pine trees imported from abroad. You're not the one who's responsible for laying pipes. The human factor right now. People are out of focus right now. This is something that I'm lacking personally when I encounter people representing different agencies. What helps you to continue to bring people together and keep people focused and make sure that people meet your standards? You know, the company has decreased over the course of the full-scale invasion, and the people that are left are the goal-oriented people, the most goal-oriented people. That's the first and foremost. And secondly, the company is large, and the general contractor that mostly comprised people who were coming from Western Ukraine, because Western Ukraine has a lot of qualified personnel to offer. I had a different idea. I wanted to have at least 40% of people come from Kyiv, and this has actually helped because people from the Western Ukraine are coming to Kyiv less and less, and they're leaving Kyiv for the most part. I don't know, maybe they're afraid of being drafted into the military, or they have been drafted into the military. And so there is an issue with employees, with qualified human capital, and so we have a person working for two instead of 2 or 3 people. But of course, everyone understands what they have to do, because we are not willing to expand westward, even though we had a lot of offers, because first and foremost, I believe that we have a lot of work to do here. It's also very complicated, and the jobs that we do definitely keeps people in Ukraine, that we are giving opportunities to young families to buy their own houses, buy their own homes, their apartment, the fact that we are giving ability to pay mortgages and mortgage payments. And a lot of people stay in Kyiv because of that. And so our goal is to create this environment where people feel comfortable to stay here and where they wouldn't think to leave Kyiv. Could you please explain to us, as a developer, that the government, the state will approach you and say, hey, Mr. Nikonov, let's rebuild the cities, offer us projects, offer us estimates, offer us materials, because you're the leaders on the market. The Khan development are the leaders on the market. Let's build something except for the Obolon bridge. Our principle is to not work with the government because we're better off not doing that. And then all of our personnel is dragged into the prosecutor's offices for a couple of years. And I'm I thought to myself, how do we participate in a tender? How do we build something for the government? That we would have to bring the representatives of all the government agencies and have them sit there and control everything. That would not work, in my opinion, which is why I think that we'll find a way to help our country with private investors, with private funding, without cooperating with the state. And I believe that we'll find qualified employees. There will be a lot of people who will be willing to work with the government. Question to Andrei. Despite the fact that you have focused on charity projects, that's the Patron Dog Center. Those of you who know, this is a project by Andrey Stavnitser. Could you raise your hands, those of you who've heard about it? Oh, you don't want to be behind. You want to also know what is Patron Dog Center. But he's also behind the Superhumans Centre. But most recently, Andrei, we've mentioned your last name when there was a strike targeting the hotels that you bought before the war. Was there any reimbursement? Was there anything that the state has offered to you? Or are you following the Igor Nikonov's approach and avoiding cooperation with the government? And talking about the ports are in operational right now. And talking about the hotel, you wanted to rebuild the hotel in Odessa, but now it's destroyed. What type of cooperation do you have with the government when it comes to those facilities? Just like Igor, I am against cooperating with the government because we are much better off not doing that. And I want to say that as Ukrainians, we have learned how to come together against something. We are struggling to come together for something. And our fight against corruption and against the corrupt government officials. And Mr. Hermai, that was sitting in this very chair before me, he said that it's a great time to implement harsh reforms. This is the best time for that. And as civil society, we have to support those efforts as much as possible. In this very hotel, I spoke to Mr. Fukuyama, and in front of a large audience, he has said, stop saying no to political will. This is slave mentality. Start saying, we did not get enough votes. We did not convince our colleagues. Because if you're talking about political will, you are delegating this responsibility to some higher authority. And that's how we go back to Soviet Union. We are the impetus behind all of these things. And we know that our president and our cabinet ministers react to our opinion. We have to motivate the government to implement these reforms right now, fight corruption right now, implement the rule of law right now, because without that, there's no way to win. I guarantee you, I'm convinced we cannot win without that. There's no way around it. Our neighbors, even they have changed, and they're learning, and they are establishing production of drones. They have systematic approach. And what have we done? We are donating for the military and pretending that the war isn't here. There's no war in Kyiv. You cannot see that. The government officials are going insane. My colleagues and I are part of many chats where people constantly discuss searches and weird instances. We cannot keep fighting at all of the front lines simultaneously. We have to remove all the extras, all of the extra commitments, and focus on victory. And then the business will assist and the civil society will assist, because if the civil society sees that it's being suppressed, I will try to avoid using obscene language. I'm sorry, that answers a different question, but no, you did answer my favorite question, because when people tell me you're a news anchor, you know what is happening and how it is happening, and I say I don't continue discussing these questions. I try to discuss service members, I try to discuss constructive issues, I try to discuss supporting veteran business, talking about Sripazniak, I try to draw the societal attention on tenders. I spend my time getting in depth into injustices that Andrey Stavnitser has mentioned. If we had Ela Libanova here, she would probably put it into better words, but this is a product of Ukrainian society. We don't want to have Putin here, we don't want to have a Tsar, but at the same time, we don't want to put as much effort as possible into implementing changes in our society. Because a lot of people keep asking, why should I do that? I already pay taxes. I'm a citizen. Why don't those other people do it? And that's an endless conversation. But we have to start doing to end this conversation. Something small. Help Stavnitzer in his pet center, walking dogs. Or at least use the Poshta services and try to understand how the point system works. Open a fundraising account on Monobank, because the question is to you, Mr. Oleg. You have spoiled Ukrainians because they have realized they have thought, mistakenly thought, that by raising funds they don't have to file taxes, because people have realized that a charity fundraising is a protection from anything and everything, like garlic or an image of some saint. But no, I tell people you have to register as a volunteer and you have to go to the tax service and file taxes. But yeah, we'll have to tackle that. So the question, Mr. Oleg, is to you. In the spring, if we talk about the evaluating the actions of the government, you have said that if we would have had bank panic, the situation would be very different. But the clients realize that the banks are reliable, especially after the government has mentioned that all of the savings accounts are guaranteed within the bank system. Whether there were any other positive decisions made by the government over this course of this year and a half in the banking sector, and if there were none, then what types of decisions or solutions are you expecting in terms of your product? What decisions could improve your product as well as the relationship between Ukrainians and banks? Thank you. Just like Andrei, I will answer a different question because we're running out of time. I wanted to highlight a very important opinion. I was inspired by my friend Kostya Efimenko. If you saw his panel and if you saw what he spoke about, I think this was a rock star speech, and I want to go back to that. I'm an advocate for large technologies, and I think that technologies are the solution to almost any issue. And what am I talking about here specifically? I want to discuss the issue of corruption, because if we were to imagine the world without corruption in Ukraine, there would be nothing to discuss here. Because no matter who you ask, everyone speaks about corruption.
But I believe the corruption can be conquered through technologies. Not only the state management technologies, there's household corruption, and you know how to deal with that. This is something done by the Ministry of Digitalization. It simply deletes the person out of any process of cooperation with the state. That's a technological solution. I believe that, well, despite what I know, nobody's using that in anywhere in the world. But nobody has ever spoken or delivered a statement in Congress while wearing military uniform. That is why I think we have to fight corruption at the state level, that we need to have polygraph testing for any person working with the state funds or working with the society, because there's some processes where you cannot offer a technical solution. That is why I believe that every investigator who is creating troubles for the business, every MP, every minister, and his deputies, before their employment, and this is something that is absolutely possible, they have to run the polygraph testing, and then to do some regular retests, so that the society would understand that this person is honest. Yes, you're saying that there could be kind of some mistakes in this testing. Yes, but this test is far smaller than this mistake is far smaller than the mistake we're making by, by attracting people to work while they're not working for the benefit of the state. So that's a technical solution that can change something. Yes, I understand that we would need to make sure that those people working with the polygraph uh, wouldn't be, taking money as bribes, but that's not that complicated. So I would really like there would be a change like that, because look, look at what's happening. We're receiving an email from kind of United States mentioning some aspects we have to fulfill, and one of the major aspects that's anti-corruption or the combating corruption. And then the next day, the mayor of the city of Sumy is arrested because of the corruption. So what the partners are saying, they don't understand whether they're doing some negotiations with a public official. They're not sure if that public official won't be arrested because of the corruption on the next day. So this sort of a foundation is a wrong one. We have to change it radically. It is only the technologies that can do that. Thank you. What was the question? Oh, well, you're all answering the question in your own way, but we can go to Vyacheslav Klymov. But it's great that you're having these answers. We still have 20 minutes of our conversation. So, by the way, anyone has a question to the speakers? Okay. Okay, you're enjoying their answers. Good. So I have a question to Vyacheslav Klymov, because Nova Poshta is also about technologies. So the post office that I'm using now, they've get the new people, but I'm waiting for them to, for these people to get more advanced in their technologies. And they're saying, no, 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 we'll do that by ourselves. Just need to wait. I remember the Forbes magazine title, and it was said that Poposhnik and Klymov faced the risk of bankruptcy, but then restored their business. And both of you were on the title page, so we can say that Nova Poshta is all fine. It's not waiting for anything from the state. All they want is just for state not to interfere. Or is there any kind of cooperation with the state? Look, whenever there are any proposals about the support from the state, not for us, but for anyone, I recall the quotation of Ronald Reagan, who said that the worst thing that the interpreter can hear in his life is like, "Good afternoon, we are from the government, we're here to help." I never wanted to hear something like that. And I'm absolutely convinced that you don't need to help the entrepreneurs. I mean, there's no need to have a help from the state. The most important support from the state to the entrepreneurs should be by not interfering, by not bothering them, not creating any obstacles. That's all they need. So I'm absolutely confident that nor the Gorokhovskyi, nor the Nikonov, nor Stavnitser, with all his destroyed ports, nor the Yefimenko, they do not require and they will not take a single hryvnia as support from the state. Like, inside the entrepreneur, inside every business, there's an incredible energy, which is far greater than what the state can have to offer. That's first thing. And secondly, I'm looking at this situation full of anxiety, the situation that Ukraine is facing after this political debate in the United States, and I feel a bit shame that there is a system, there is a strategy in our country that provides for reliance on external factors that are not dependent on us. So we have created a system that our independence, our freedom, the lives of our children are dependent on the controversies between two political parties of our partner. Any conclusion we can make out of it? Well, we need to look inside. We need to look at the Ukrainian business as part of the Ukrainian community that can play a far more significant role in defending our country and on our way to victory. Look at what has happened to the drone industry. We practically had none in the beginning of the aggression. I mean, there was nothing. Well, we had our 18s, something else uh, that we started to develop back in 2015. Now the industry uh, has billions, really, and not a single UAV is produced by the state company. These are private companies who designed these UAVs, who taught the armed forces to use them, and well, made the army use them. And now, thanks to the state, by the way, they received a state order. So that's the ideal module, that the best one possible. So let's have the same approach to all the industry of producing weapons, because our victory depends on that. So let's start liberalizing Ukraine's economy with the weapons industry, as we've done that all together with the state, together with Michael Federer, that we all adore, but let's not forget that he's a minister. He is the government, the authority, but we've created liberalization in part of the weapons industry as related to the UAV. What's the army of drones that I highly respect? That's a kind of a cloak that helped this industries to develop. So let's have the same thing happening to the ammunition with a caliber of 155 millimeter. Let's do something with the tanks like that. Tanks, it's not the rocket science. I'm an engineer by my grad background. There's nothing difficult. And surely Ukrainian business can produce tanks, ammunition, but you need liberalization. You need to have, the interpreter who would be producing shells, he should have state order and not the prosecutor calling him to court. That is why I'm absolutely confident that the interpreters, they don't need any assistance from the state except for the lack of interference. I would like to compliment what Mr. Klymov has said. I'm both hands for liberalization. Now, where do we get 200,000 IT experts? We didn't have them like 10 years ago. Nobody saw them. Nobody like controlled them, and fortunately, their incomes were coming below the radars of the tax authorities, and we had 10 billion US dollars in products. Nobody told them. The state never gave them universities courses, never told them. So that's a fantastic Ukrainian people who managed to kind of train themselves and generate a lot of amount of money. Should we use that for the other industries? And then I'm confident of having a great interest or great results for Ukraine. Just you know, don't bother us, and we'll have everything perfect. So we had Commissioner Shurma, but still all four of them sat on the stage. Just do not bother us. Vyacheslav, just a small clarification question. You gave a wonderful interview once, and you said that Putin is a crazy criminal, but he is very pragmatic. He turned Russia's economy to military posture, and he doesn't care what's happening to military business. If you learn the Russia's budget for the next year, the Russia's military budget has increased by 80%. That's an enormous amount of money. And Russia has the only goal, the only development strategy is to destroy the Ukrainian nation, is to make everything for this nation not to exist, to well, exert all the efforts possible. Should we talk about global things? We're talking about military military rails, but what sort of strategy do you foresee in terms of the business? Would you like everything to be liberalized or everything working for the military so that we would be mirroring some of the Russia's activities, or that would be the last question to all of you. So you're a very specific question, so surely you'll be answering very specifically to my question. I want us to have an absolutely open economy. And this energy, this powerful energy of an open economy that will be dealing with weapons as well, it's far more powerful, it's far more potent than any will by any autocratic state. I'm absolutely confident about this. So that's what I vote for. That's what I call upon. We need to free the economy, and it will appear that the energy we have is far more than whatever budgets the autocratic state might come from, might come with. Igor, please. I want to give an example from the construction field. Once there was a case that the joint investment funds, they managed to get some benefits in terms of the taxation in our field. So what do we see over the 7 or 8 years? The construction field was significantly has grown significantly. The prices are among the cheapest in Europe, while the quality is far greater in some of the projects. And this model shows that you really need to have the liberalization of the approach. Look at the United States. They don't have. Maybe I'm wrong, but still, they have not too many state enterprises of the military industry. All of them are private, but there is the customer, and he would have to work at the market conditions with all the market participants. In the field of construction, we have clearly shown, so give us normal conditions, and those taxes there will be more of the taxes because hundreds and hundreds of people they're going this business. People are coming from abroad. They're investing in our real estate because they can see that you can earn with that. They can see there is a possibility to get something for the better with the taxes. But look at what is happening now. Just as usual, they're trying to pass the laws or regulations. Uh, it's like a marriage in Malinivka. Remember that old movie from the Soviet times? And he said, like, that's for me, that's for me, that's for me. Oh, hopefully I have enough for me. So look at these law enforcers. They keep looking whether you've earned like additional hryvnia or something like that. They don't understand that this extra money they will be invested in the economy that will be developing our country. So I fully agree with my counterparts that we need to liberalize everything. We need to remove all the state enterprises, even the strategic ones. It's just that the anti-monopoly committee has to use them properly, but all business has to be private, and all the services that the state is currently offering to the people, they have to be owned by the private people, and the state has to be the kind of the customer, and they should not interfere with the processes related to the industry or the production. Well, I really want to have a question for you. So, there's such an advanced people in there, but still there's no liberalization of the processes you mentioned. But still, the reforms are taking place well slowly, but still. Are you happy to give a time for this state to happen? I mean, you're staying here, meaning that you still have how to. So, do you think this process will take too much time and we won't be able to have them very soon when the defense enterprises will become private? Well, the first and foremost, uh, the first pain we have, it's all about populism. The election is the fear of the people about not being elected tomorrow, so they will have to revert and to the population with promises they won't be able to accomplish. That's first thing. Then law enforcement agency. Nobody has reformed law enforcement, and the prosecutor who opened I don't know 100 proceedings and only one of them got to court, and then only 1% of them were successful. He will not get punished, and that's wrong. Then I believe that we all hope this is going to happen, but we have to remove the populism. And second thing, we well, the leader that we have for our country, maybe it's kind of a political will, but look, the political will he shouldn't be, afraid about his future. If the authorities will not be afraid about their future, well, they have to understand that there will be new authorities coming, but someone has to take this responsibility. But what's important is security and defense sector. It has to be reformed much faster because the state has a lot of people like Fedorov, like Shurma. They understand a lot of things, but I can't see any persons like that working at the security and defense sector. And like we are fighting against corruption. Who's fighting against the corruption? The law enforcement agencies, but there's so many of them. You know, they can produce not only the tanks, but I don't know, nuclear icebreakers. But unfortunately, all of them are bothering us, are creating obstacles for us on a daily basis. Maybe they're not willing to do so, and somewhere deep in their heart, they're not agreeing with that. But unfortunately, they're doing that.
So I want to give the floor to Mr. Lech, Mr. Andrei, and please raise your hands to people who want to ask a question. Okay, so how are we wrapping up our present? Just a couple of words. I have two indicators that things are going well in the country. The first indicator is that good people want to become part of the government. Okay, I would rephrase it. When I see that this happens, then I'll know that we are on the road towards recovery. We only see people who have nothing to lose to join the government. That is wrong. We have to create conditions where people like us would want to implement changes on a governmental level. And the second indicator would be when people would start coming back from abroad, when they realize that the conditions are suitable and the taxes are low. These are the two indicators that will convince me. I have found the words of the historian Yaroslav Hrytsak, and I wanted to respond to Igor Nikonov briefly. This is a historian that I hope all of your audience are respecting. We are the state where elites are using populist tools, but we are not a populist state. We are implementing reforms slowly, but thanks to the people on the state, as reforms are happening. I am going to the audience, and we're going to ask questions from the audience. Please do come back. Okay. It's quite weird to ask the audience, but friends, thank you for the panel. Today is a great day because today Mr. Budanov, I hope that all of you have read his interview, but Mr. Budanov has said that, once again, this is the most well-informed person in our country. He said that the war will last until 2025 or 2026. That's 3 more years of war for us at least. So my question to you is, how will your priorities change, your business priorities change, knowing this fact? What will be on the agenda to move on towards the war marathon? Please share some advice to those in the audience. So we're hoping for the marathon until 2026, 2025? Okay. Whoever wants to answer that question, I will answer that question because I did not get to have a turn during the last question. I offered you a turn. No, you went to join the audience. Okay. I believe that the most important challenge for us is exhaustion. There is a great example that exactly a year ago, Sternenko and Pritula were raising money, and they were able to raise 350 million hryvnia in 3 days, and now they're raising money again, and over the course of 3 days they have raised 150 million, and this is a clear indicator of what has happened to us and what is happening. In this exhaustion is first and foremost our main enemy, because what is happening when we are exhausted? Well, firstly, we start arguing amongst ourselves. We can forget who the real enemy is, and we start focusing on the internal issues. This is a significant risk. And secondly, we are the projection of the system. The system itself is getting exhausted as well. What have we seen in the first couple of days? Maybe this is something that we have to go back to from time to time, but someone approved this decision and someone took the responsibility to give weapons to people on the streets. So, can you imagine how was a decision made by a bureaucratic system? There's no way to do that. So, in crisis, there are people who take responsibility and who do things and get things done. In the times of the COVID pandemic, we also had people in crisis be allowed to open bank accounts remotely, and now we are one of the most technologically developed countries in the world. And if it wasn't for the COVID pandemic, it would take us another 5 years to have that. So I believe that we have to always keep in mind that our main goal is to fight with the enemy, and this enemy is not our government, it is Russia. And we have to fight Russia, and we have to do whatever we can to make sure that all the efforts are focused on it. So let's not fight inside, let's fight outside. But on the other hand, Andrey Stavnitser said that Ukrainians cannot keep donating endlessly when we're talking about such a strong enemy. There has to be a system in place. Would anyone like to add anything? Or shall we move on? Okay, next question. Good evening. My name is Andrei. I represent the company Vodafone Ukraine. My question is the following. We have heard a lot of different information, and I highlighted for myself that 7 million Ukrainians are abroad currently. 40% of them don't want to come back. And maybe this is the last question. I wanted to ask for a message from businesses. What should we do, each and every one of us, the politicians present here, to bring people back home, to make sure that people want to live in their country, live in the country where they were born? Is this your question, or is this a question from the company Vodafone? No, this is my question. That you want to become the key question of this panel. Okay, sure. A brief question. Nothing until the conditions are suitable for these people to come back. The same thing with grain in Poland. No one needs us. We have to create conditions to be wanted, to be needed. We have to become competitive. This is something that Klymov mentioned. We have to do things in a way where our products are wanted all over the world, and that's when people will want to return to Ukraine to buy Ukrainian products. There's no other way around it. This is a principle of market-based economy. It's the case with iPhone. It says manufactured in China, but thought about and developed in California. And there's money made both in China and California, but it's more in California. And we have people who come up with these great ideas, like Oleg, like Mr. Klymov, like Nikonov, like Khmelnytsky. We have a lot of people who are great workers and great blue collar workers, but we have a lot of people who have great brains. Yeah, like someone said, Ukraine is grains and brains. That's the most important thing. When we create comfortable conditions, people will come back. I have a lot of opinions on this because there are many specialists, and I understand that the longer they stay there, the less are the chances that they will come back because they are adapting. They're finding employment, finding a better life there. And the answer to this question is in the fact, in something that we have discussed here, if we liberalize the market and if the companies do not see any obstacles, they will become a lot more profitable. They will have revenues, and they will be able to offer to the people who have left better and more competitive salaries and higher salaries than they have abroad, because the conditions for businesses would be more favorable here. There's no other way around it. And I'm saying that for sure because I know a lot of people, but of course half of them will definitely come back. I can tell you that for sure because a lot of them are scared, and which is why they're there, because they're afraid of the strikes and the military threats. But the other half will have to win monetarily, will have to offer competitive salaries and develop economic growth. If that does not happen, we will lose these people forever, and that is a great human potential of our country. I will also add something. I believe that this project is one of the most important ones because bringing back Ukrainians is a very important goal. Because we'll have no GDP growth if we don't bring people back. And I think this is such an important mission for us. I don't want to keep all of you here for much longer, but I just want to say that we have to have Fedorov be responsible for this goal, because that will give us a fighting chance. Today, in the process of our discussion, Klymov has mentioned to love Fedorov less, and Gorokhovskyi has said that Fedorov is in charge. I thank you all for spending this day with the Kyiv International Economic Forum. I thank you for being the people who are doing things, because you have improved your critical thinking level, you have improved your knowledge here. Oleg, we keep going back and forth. You've mentioned goal and purpose. There's a great Ukrainian word will, and Valery Zaluzhny, our commander-in-chief, he explains this word as a state and as a process. It is a state of feeling our own will, our independence, our freedom, and it is also the process where we make certain steps and actions to make sure that our family, friends, and country remain independent and free. This is extremely important to remember, that we have many steps to make, and at the stage are the people who are setting examples for us today. I know that you have something to be proud of, but I would like to thank and close the 9th Kyiv International Economic Forum by thanking Andrey Stavnitser, Oleg Gorokhovskyi, Vyacheslav, Klymov, and Igor Nikonov. And thanks to the Armed Forces of Ukraine for us being able to gather here today. See you next year.